And ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce our next speaker, who's a hero or heroine of mine, a total legend. She's Chancellor of the Open University, so she really understands the importance of skills and ensuring we have a workforce in the UK to meet the challenges of today. As a member of the House of Lords, she understands the importance of lawmakers and how they are critical in enabling business to drive growth and innovation. And as an entrepreneur and a businesswoman, she will bring her own personal experience in championing the work of British business, not just in the UK, but also on a global stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the British Chamber of Commerce, Baroness Martha Lane Fox.
Hiya. Hello. It's really fantastic to be here. You have seen everybody today, haven't you? Leaders of opposition, people who wish they'd been Prime Minister, people that are Chancellor, people that are governors. Well, now you are looking at something you never expected to see, an extinct species. Oh yes, I am bringing you an exclusive viewing of an actual dinosaur. And I know this because the other day I was walking down the street and someone came up to me and they said, "Oh, I know who you are." And I thought, "Oh, I'm looking a bit famous today. You're that," I'm struggling to find my name in their head, "You're that .com dinosaur." And I thought, oh my God. I know I was 50 recently, but that felt pretty brutal. But I have had a funny kind of life. I had this extreme experience when I was very young in building lastminute.com and really had the entrepreneurial journey of a lifetime back in 1997 to about 2003-04. It was phenomenal. A bit like being in a pop band where you've had this one insane hit and then have to work out what the rest of your life is going to look like. And I've worked across multiple different sectors, from the public to the private to the charitable. So I was absolutely thrilled when I was offered the chance to become your president, and have really reveled coming to meet different chambers and travel around the country to hear your concerns and try and do my best to represent them to anybody that will listen. I've been from Poole to Edinburgh via Coventry, Birmingham, Manchester. Sorry if I've forgotten places that I visited, and I look forward to visiting a lot more. And some of the things that have really struck me about our amazing network are the incredible commitment to a bunch of things that I also have tried to commit to in my working life. Diversity, digitization, and sustainability being three of the key ones. And I just want to talk a bit briefly to you about why I think they're so fundamental, why I'm still fully vested in this country. I believe we are facing into some very strong headwinds, as everybody here better qualified than me has documented, but I also really believe in the resilience of our people, our businesses, and our entrepreneurial capacity. So first of all, diversity. You know, I would say that. I was given the most incredible chance as a young woman to build a business in a sector that was not very full of people that looked like me. But no surprises, every single person on this stage has said it. We face a people's crisis right now. And unless we reach further and beyond where we've looked for people before, we're not going to be able to solve it. And that's about thinking about diversity in all of its different forms. You know, I have been given opportunities I never imagined because of the extremely lucky journey that I went on with my business. We need to bring more people into the economic landscape, into the entrepreneurial journeys, into our businesses, from communities that perhaps we've not reached into before. Younger people, people maybe who've left the workforce but might want to be enticed to return. People from different places. I feel so strongly that this country has got the incredible talent that we need. We just need to unlock it and unleash it. Diversity is central to how we can build a robust economy. The second is digitization. No surprises there. It's been the backdrop to my whole life. I am constantly struck by a feeling of incredible pace. This is the slowest day of the rest of our lives. Go figure that for a minute. You might think I'm talking nonsense. Let that percolate. This is the slowest day of the rest of our lives. Things are speeding up. I have been completely and totally sideswiped by the generative AI technologies. I'm sure many people in this room have as well. I take some comfort from the fact that Demis Hassabis, who's the brilliant CEO of DeepMind, also seems to have been slightly sideswiped by it, because in many, many interviews that he did over the last year, he hardly talked about it. So I realized if he, the extreme AI genius, probably didn't imagine it's going to land in the consciousness like it has, then I feel slightly more reassured by that. But if you haven't played with this stuff, play with it, get involved, use it. It's not just a tech entrepreneur who's always talked about digitization standing on a stage encouraging you to do that. It is someone who really believes that this is the biggest platform shift that I have seen in my lifetime beyond the introduction of the internet. And the reason I think that is because work is going to change so dramatically. I think our productivity is going to change. I think what we do will be different. Not worse, not better, who knows, but different. And we need to be ahead of it. We might not be the AI capital of the universe. We might not be able to build a Silicon Valley in the UK. I'm not sure we even want to be honest. But I think we can make ourselves a more robust digital economy. And that is a deepening of our digital skills. It means every business embracing technology, every institution embracing technology, from clinical commissioning groups to education institutions to parliament, to whatever it might be. That feels achievable, and that, I think, will unlock massive growth. In 45 minutes just the other week, I sat down and played with the latest wave of applications built on the GPT technologies, and I built myself a website. I can't code a single line of code. It wasn't a very beautiful website, but I put in some parameters. I changed all of the articles I've ever written into podcasts using my own voice. 45 minutes. This is changing the game. And I think if you haven't played with it yourselves, it's a dereliction of your ambition. I mean that sincerely. So diversity, digitization, and then most importantly, sustainability. We've talked a bit about the climate here today, but in my opinion, not enough. I did a quick kind of back of the envelope few numbers recently to look at venture capital investment that had been in technology and how much of that was being put into technologies that are addressing the climate crisis. Now, it might be kind of year-old data, but you'll get the idea of the scale of the problem here. So the venture capital money that was going into technology and technology related to climate, so quite a specific niche, only 3.5% of VC tech money was going into climate-based technology solutions. 3.5%, my God, even if I've got my number 10 times wrong, it's not even 100th of where it needs to be. So my point here is that we are having the conversations, but we're facing into such an opportunity. I believe the next trillionaire will be made from green technologies and other related industries, no question. We just need to grab it. There's no reason they can't come from the UK. I've had some dealings with Elon Musk recently as I was on the board of Twitter. That's another story. Let's claim back some of those headwinds from him and make sure that we are getting that growth here in the UK. So digitization, diversity, sustainability, they're the cause of the things that I'm interested in. And they're the things that I've heard from all of you as I've been traveling around as well. One thing I know for certain is that none of this is going to happen if we don't work together. I'm so proud to be president of this amazing network, unlocking so much stuff for people at a local level, whether it's trading relationships, skills shortages, or just sharing the difficulties of being a CEO, which, as I know very keenly, is lonely and difficult and often feel very oppressive. But together we can do amazing things. Siobhan, Sarah, the incredible leadership of this 160-year-old organization. We're here, we're open for business, we're doing business, we're where business belongs, and I'm proud to be your president. Thank you.
Run there to keep up with you.
Got to raise the volume of the words per minute.
my steps in towards the end. So I love the fact that someone called you a dinosaur. I'm quite comfortable with being a dinosaur. I think we're all into Jurassic Park, right? It's not a bad thing. It's fine being a dinosaur. So look, one of the things that I think is so interesting about you is obviously you've got your role, brilliant role here with the British Chambers of Commerce. We've heard the politicians here. In a way, what you have done in your own career is you have sparked that alchemy, that magic, the kind of innovation, the growth that our politicians so desperately are chasing.
Thank you.
And we've heard from them, various ideas of how they try and, catalyze this growth. What do you think needs to happen to kind of create the magic?
I think there's two separate things there. So, I can give the BCC answer about the policy points that we're working hard on, whether it's the skills and people's crisis, trading, whether it's unlocking finance, all those things. But there are other bits, aren't there? There's that belief in yourself and the confidence. And I often talk about this around everyone can be an entrepreneur, even if everyone shouldn't start a business. And by that, I mean, I think you have agency in whatever you're in. And people here do have agency because generally you're all running your businesses. But I think there's clearly at the minute, everybody is sort of holding their breath. There's a collective slight pause in confidence. We're waiting to see what the economic climate is looking like. We're waiting to see what the political climate is looking like. And who can blame everybody? It's difficult to call, and it's very confusing, and it's complicated, and people are making hard decisions and facing into some really unpleasant potential business risks and so on. So I don't blame them, but there is an unlocking of confidence that happens with entrepreneurship that I think is part of that alchemy. Yes, lastminute.com, we were confident, we were 25, we knew nothing. Who knew? We were just rolling forwards and trying to do our best. But when I saw it weirdly most keenly was actually when I was establishing the government digital service in the centre of government, and we created gov.uk. Now, oh my God, a bit dry. She's talking about government interactive government services, but I bet all of you have relied on that website a bit in the last 3 years. And I think that was the most entrepreneurial thing I did, because we had to unlock all those mini entrepreneurs in the civil service to say, actually, we don't have to do it like this. We can think about policy and making digital products and services for citizens in a different way, and it could be really meaningful and important. And you bring together people and you show them that actually making change in confidence and having the confidence to build something new is possible. So that's what I think it does come a lot down to.
And speaking of government, I mean, it is, to be fair to government ministers, quite bewildering just the pace of change of technology. And of course, you've got the development of AI, and when you have these sort of, godlike tech bros going, slow down AI, even we can't keep up with it. Some poor junior minister in a department is struggling. I always remember one of my stories from when I was a civil servant. This is just like so back in the day. Google was starting to be a really big thing, and they wanted to come in and do a presentation to MPs in the House of Commons, and nobody even knew the Wi-Fi password. It's like you're dealing with Google, and we're like, we don't know what the Wi-Fi. I mean, it was just like such a disconnect between this incredible innovation and being at the absolute cutting edge, and people who really are trying to regulate this stuff but don't really know very much about it. How do you think, the sector, or how can we sort of help policymakers understand this better so they make the right decisions in terms of, regulation and freedom?
I mean, I do think it's improved dramatically, and I think it is an important issue. But I think while we need to continue to put the pressure on politicians to understand this stuff and to get involved, and as I said, just play with things and feel confident that they can engage with the digital world in an easier way than ever before, I also think, and I've kind of referred to it, that practically the biggest wins for us as a country are to put much more effective use of the tools of the modern age at the heart of everything that we do. And that is as much true about running Parliament as it is about running a small business, as it is about running a big business. We are pretty good at some aspects of technology in this country, but we still have a huge number of people that have been left behind. People in our own workforce, people in our own communities, people in our leadership positions. And I'm not dodging your question, but for me, that is the biggest unlock right now. And it's not one that requires you to be absolute whizzy AI expert. It just requires to do the work of better connectivity, more affordable access, better skills programs, and all the things that we know we need to do.
And kind of not being embarrassed about admitting that you need to skill up on this stuff and making that more accessible for people. Now, before we come to questions from the audience, one of the things that you and I were talking about sort of backstage, and I think it's something which will resonate with people in the room, there are amazing people in this room, and, businesses are so important to their communities.
Yes.
They are rooted in their communities. They want to be part of the future of their communities. But we have this very bad sort of dramatic narrative about business, probably not helped by Succession, which we're all binge watching at the moment, or Elon Musk, who you've been sort of dealing with. How do you think, we can tell better stories about the work that many of the people in this room do, and of course many of the people across your networks and chambers do?
Well, I think that's the big thing for me, is there are narratives about big business, and there should be, because some things that happen are unacceptable. But what is happening locally is a completely different story, and that is the strength of what we have in this room. That when I go and I meet, people in Coventry or people in Poole or the people in Edinburgh, the first thing people want to tell me is about how they're interacting with the local education networks, or what they've done to involve, the communities that are not in the business world in their businesses. And I think those are the local stories that we all know in this network. That's what the BCC's real strength is. So I think they exist, and I think people hear them. I just think there's a disconnect sometimes with those bigger narratives about the business world that the media necessarily always jump on.
Absolutely. So we've got a couple of moments for some questions for Martha, if anyone has any questions they'd like to put to her.
Or I can just talk to you about karaoke. That's my other sideline.
Oh, we love karaoke. Any questions?
Go on, somebody be brave.
Oh,
over there. Hello.
So, Chris Gaunt, Chairman of the British Chamber in Turkey. Just two more to add to your guiding principles.
Yes.
And that's trust
Yes.
and inclusivity. That's what we've been missing
Yes.
through politicians and business. Yeah, we need to re-establish all those values so that we can take all this forward, where we are a collective with trust and inclusivity. Thank you.
I completely agree, and I would see those as kind of fundamental values that go across all the themes I'm interested in. We can't build anything without trust and inclusivity, and I think we've done a really good job at destroying a lot of trust in many aspects of our society, and where I see it strong is in these local networks that we have in this room, and we need to work out how to ladder that up to the national level. I completely agree with you.
And now I think we had a question from the gentleman at the front here. Thank you.
Thank you. David Clark from Guildhawk, and our business is in London, also in Sheffield. So we're very much into the AI and the GPT work, which is, for a dinosaur like me, is really mind-blowing. But the question I had for you, really, it was probably really unfair, more for the Minister, actually, but how do we fund this? I've just come back from Guangzhou and Hong Kong with a trade visit over there. You know, one of the richest nations, of course, with money to fund things is the Chinese.
Yep.
And we're having certain statements made by politicians, others. And I heard nothing but, you know, positive stuff from people in Southeast Asia. People really admiring us and feeling what Sakir said about, you know, we look up to Britain, we really admire you. They know that we're cutting edge with stuff. But the question, I suppose, really is how do we fund it? And what's your take on our relationship with China going forward? Because they've got a lot of money.
Yes, okay, two massive questions. I mean, on the funding point, we have money, right? We're one of the richest countries in the world. I constantly go back to that. I'm not saying the choices are easy, but we have choices to make. So I read recently, I've been chairing this political writing prize called the Orwell Prize, and I've read 40 non-fiction books. One I really commend to anybody in this room, and I'm slightly ashamed, no one's going to be recording this, I'm sure, that I didn't know more about this, but a brilliant book is Follow the Money by Paul Johnson from the IFS, just about where we spend money. I don't know if you read it, it's fabulous. We have choices. We have choices in defense spending. We have choices in how we construct our infrastructure. We have choices. So, you know, those are political decisions way above my pay grade. But I go back to that we are one of the richest countries in the world. And sometimes recently it has not felt like that. And it certainly has not felt like that for certain people in our society. But we shouldn't lose sight of that. And if we can unlock more growth, even better. We'll have even more money, right? So I start from a slightly different position, I think. In terms of China, you know, I've really become much more anxious, to be honest. I am an open-minded global person, but I feel like it is asymmetrical warfare at the minute. And I don't think people in the UK, I don't understand, but I don't think we collectively understand enough about what's happening in China and how they are viewing us. And I don't say that in a kind of antagonistic way. It's incredibly important to keep the conversations open, but I think we have to be real, as you say, about the spending, about the technical things that they're doing, about the security decisions they're making, about what might be happening in Taiwan, all of these things. Don't worry, I'm not going to do a Liz Truss. So I just think we need to have our eyes open to where the money is coming from and where it's going. And certainly as a tech entrepreneur, I would be much more alarmed now about the infiltration of Chinese technical systems than I was even 5, 10, 15 years ago. But that's not to say we shouldn't be talking and be open. Of course we should.
No, it's a really interesting question, actually. I will put that. The next minister I have on my radio should
Yes,
put that.
should have had that
It's a
question.
very good question. It's a very good question. Now, final question. I was really struck by Lindsay's brilliant presentation that we heard. Let's give a round of applause, Lindsay, because she was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was really interesting.
Fabulous.
And one of the things that I thought was just so interesting about that, because Lindsay made a really powerful case for both having like a very strong sense of sort of purpose and mission, and how that can sit alongside, you know, profit. And how do you think modern businesses navigate both of those things? Because I think most people in this room want to do the right thing. I think most people were nodding along in agreement with Lindsay and want to be good. You want to be successful corporate citizens, but they want to be good corporate citizens as well. But how do you balance both of those things? Because many people still have the duty for, you know, maximizing shareholder value, and you want to make profit, but you want to do the right thing as well and be proud of that. How does a modern business navigate those things?
I think they're often seen, and I didn't see all of your presentation, Lindsay, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating stuff. I think they're often seen as separate when, to me, they're absolutely linked. There is no profit without that purpose at the heart of it, because your customers are not going to respond to you in whatever form they are, and your employees aren't either. And that is one of the biggest shifts, I think, that I've seen in the last 25, 30 years. I'm ashamed to say a bit when we were starting lastminute.com, I didn't think for 1 second about the fact that we were sending people all over the world on cheap flights. I would be thinking more now about that. You know, £99 to fly to New York felt like the biggest result I ever got. Thank you, Haldor Halldorson from Iceland Air. You did us a massive favour. But now I would have some uncomfortableness about that, and I would be thinking about it differently, I'm positioning it differently. And I think that is an incredibly powerful shift. You know, I'm a huge fan of the B Corp movement. I chair a company called WeTransfer. It's a mid-sized tech company. It's a registered B Corp, one of the only scaled tech companies that's a B Corp. It's a very, I'm sure many people here know it, and probably many of you are B Corps, very, very detailed certification process to get through the greenwashing about lots of metrics around this stuff. So there are ways of showing it to your employees, your customers, your suppliers, whatever it might be. But I think the direction of travel is clear. You will have no profit unless you put purpose at the heart of your business.
And how important is ESG in all of this?
Well, ESG feels like it's become a framework that I hear again and again has become constricting as opposed to a framework that is delivering on what we want it to deliver on, which, you know, was right intentionally at the beginning. It was meant to help us move towards a more profit and purpose-led society. And in many ways, it's helpful. You know, shareholders need to be able to look and have some checklists, but it clearly is in some ways become a constricting factor for business. Is not the way that we need them to be thinking about the future. So in my opinion, it probably needs a rethink, and the metrics need a rethink, and the shareholders and the relationship, particularly between your public companies and those metrics, needs rethinking, because we know there's a lot of just obfuscation and opaqueness goes on. But you know, the direction of travel still came from a good place, right? We still need to go in that direction, but we're just tweaking how we get there on the way.
Yeah, no, fascinating stuff, and I think that is going to be a big topic to look out for. Well, that's the end of our time with Martha Lane Fox. Thank you so much, Martha. What
Thank
a
all of
brilliant
you,
way
really.
to end the conference. Let's give it up for Martha.
Thank you.